If you're on the fence about making content, in this video, I interviewed Jordan Yates. She jumped right in and she is crushing it. She is a marketing engineer by day, and she has been taking on the content creation role on LinkedIn, going towards being an influencer, and we're gonna dive into this conversation. So Jordan, tell me about what is it that you do?
I work full-time as a marketing engineer for a ceramic capacitor manufacturer. And in doing that, it's mostly behind the scenes research. I am basically the power electronics expert, as they call me. And I mean, keep the term expert relative. So I started there about a year ago, and I'll do things like research the applications for where our products will go, because they're very specialty. They're not just like jelly bean parts that can go in anything, because they're more expensive and more high reliability. So I basically look at schematics 90% of the time and then do market research, overlap all that, and then I tell the team, hey, this is where our product should go, and then I'll train the salespeople on it. And that's important because our salespeople are not engineers, so this stuff isn't something they would just already know. But to be fair, it's not something regular engineers already know without like spending the time to look at it. So basically the internal resource for that. Then I have my own
flip side of it.
Yeah, so that's my engineering side, and then on the side of my, I guess, side hustle, if you will, I don't feel like it's full-fledged enough to call it a business. I would still consider it a hustle. I have started a company, I'm calling it Jordan Yates Marketing, just because I have a big presence on LinkedIn, and Jordan Yates is what was recognizable. So I had a different name that I used for my LLC at first, but it wasn't, like it didn't ring any bells, and I didn't want to grow that name because I wasn't necessarily trying to make a large business. I just more so enjoy making content. So what it is I'll create like what I tag as fun and relatable technical content, where a customer I have like right now is laying reels for an offshore wind farm, and they want me to showcase their capabilities. So I'll take what I know about the technical side and then try to make it more digestible for a non-technical audience, but also targeting the technical people they'd want to sell their services to. So mostly content creation videos, posting their content on my LinkedIn, things like that, but also occasionally I'll help them set up LinkedIn, do some LinkedIn training and things of that nature.
Cool. So your content creation journey, talk to me about the setting it up, where you're at, where you went from where you first started, because it's a pretty like large thing to just jump into, right? When you don't have a team to support you and things like that. So talk to me about when you first got started and where you're at today.
Yeah, so gosh, it's been probably like a year and a half now. I was a technical sales engineer for I guess you'd consider industrial automation and controls company. They were a distributor and an integrator. And they didn't have super good name recognition, so when I was cold calling, I was realizing like nobody knew who Jordan from XYZ company was. Yeah. And it was really frustrating because I'm like, nobody knows who we are, but you think that we're like the most, awesome company in the area, everybody knows us. There was a disconnect, and I'm like, how do I pitch everything we do in 30 seconds? Because typically, if someone answers the phone, they already decided they don't want to talk to you. They're kind of like, oh crap, like it's a salesperson. Yeah. So I thought, how do I make it to where my cold calls turn into warm calls? So I started growing my LinkedIn, and I would post pictures with like demos, and then I slowly got into videos, and I would just like connect with the people that I wanted to sell to, and then other industry professionals, and especially our suppliers, because they would see me making content and then send me more demos because they're like, this is awesome. Well, that got me a lot of traction and made it super easy to get appointments, got into a lot of tier 1 accounts that way. And then for a multitude of reasons, I decided to quit that job. But at that point, my people on LinkedIn were like, hey, like, we love your videos. Why did they stop? Where did they go? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't have these demos anymore. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to talk about? So I started getting into like soldering, because I was like, this is manufacturing related. This is a fun technical thing. And then I had people start reaching out to me being like, can you make videos for our company? Like, this is cool. I want this for my company. Can you do this? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Like, why not? You're close enough. This isn't too hard. And so I incorporated an LLC, and I did that around the time I left my other company, but they were crazy about their non-compete. So I just dropped it for a year. I didn't touch it. I stepped away from LinkedIn for a while until I started feeling like, okay, they're probably not going to come after me if I start making content. Like, I'll just, like, it's okay. So like back in, I guess, November, I started back into content again. And then I was like, you know what would be a fun extension? A podcast. So I love listening to podcasts, and I thought this would be a cool way to have industry professionals on, but not be one of those manufacturing specific podcasts where, like, if my mom listened to it, she can enjoy it, but also if a young engineer listens to it, maybe they'll get career advice. So it wasn't as drilled down, it was more the people side of all my technical stuff. So that's where I am now, and getting some customers and getting rolling and finally becoming, you know, I guess, what do they say, post-revenue?
Yeah.
or whatever it is when you're not a $0 company anymore.
Yeah, profitable.
Yeah.
Like, you're essentially starting like a one girl agency to do it while you have a full-time job.
Yes.
Do you think that you would ever say, you know what, this is all I want to do? Like, do you love it that much already? Do you think, can you see yourself loving it that much?
You know, I get asked that a lot, and people are always like, oh wait, can I ask you that, like, on a podcast? Like, what are you going to say? Like, I don't want to get you in trouble. But the truth is, I love what I do for a living, and I feel like to be an engineer making content in this industry, I'm too early in my career to stop being an engineer in this industry. I love my job. I love the people I work for, which I've never loved a job before. Like, I genuinely enjoy what I do. And I work remote, so I have a lot of free time and flexibility in my schedule. So I enjoy having the reliability of it, but also I don't feel ready to step into content only because I don't think I have enough industry experience to justify that. I feel more connected with what I'm doing, given that during the day I am still an engineer and I haven't gone full content yet. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. Probably in the next 5 years, like, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, learning, get more deep into engineering before I consider switching to anything else.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you doing that, getting more experience, because I feel like people these days, regardless of age, are like, as soon as they can do their own thing, they're like, yeah, I quit my job, I'm doing my own thing, and I'm going to make so much money. And they're talking about things that they don't really have experience doing, and they haven't really worked a lot. Yeah. And they're just all of a sudden like, yeah, it's almost like 20-year-old life coaches, right? Or like relationship advice from a 22-year-old. Like, I feel like it's smart for you to go down that path because you can get more experience doing whatever it is that you want to do, and then decide like, okay, now I'm at this point. I've done enough things that I know that this is a passion of mine. Yeah. I didn't just come and go, and it's something that I want to invest into. So I feel like that's more of an answer coming from someone in your space versus like, and honestly, like, whether they're 20 or 50, I feel like the new trend is like, I'm going to be my own boss. Maybe it's because of COVID, but
I don't know. I really like my boss right now, so I don't want to be my own boss yet. Like, I learned so much from the people on my team currently, and I love like having the network in my current company. Like, I don't want to give that up. Like, I learn a lot from those guys. We have really great engineers I work with, and for me, I am an engineer and I want to stay one for a while. Like, I know there's always like, you start as an engineer and then you go to management and do something else, and engineers don't always stay engineers, but I really love doing engineering, and especially the kind I do. And so I don't know. I also think I would get burned out if I did this full time because I have to be on when I'm recording. I'm an introvert. I like to be alone for extensive amount of hours a day. Like, I love that and I need that. Yeah. So I couldn't do this all day, every day. That's just not a fit for me. That's not my personality. I feel like I show up best in a place like this when I get to be alone for the first 6 hours of the day. Yeah. So that's why, like, unless something flips inside me, which I don't think it will, I think I have to have the technical roots to ground me, and then this is how I express myself on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's great for being that self-aware. Yeah. I feel like most people aren't. They're just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then before you know it, they're like, oh, I should have done that. Yeah. And you get resentment, regrets, things like that. What's one thing that you wish that you have right now to help you out in your journey? Besides like a dope team like what we have.
A trust fund. No, I mean, I'm to the point right now where if I had, better equipment, that would be cool. If I had a better camera or, better editing software, or if I maybe took some time to like learn or take a course, like that would be awesome. But a big part of what I talk about on my podcast is just learning as you go. It's okay to fail. It's okay to not have super high quality instantly. And that's kind of part of my brand, is learning as I go. So yeah, sure, it'd be nice if I just had $3,000 to go buy a nice MacBook. But fact that I'm on my way to earning it, and that when I do get it, it's gonna feel really satisfying knowing that I earned it with this extra money from making videos. So if I have anything, maybe, I don't know, an extra few hours in the day, like that would be cool, but unrealistic.
And I feel like you learn, like, your content's gonna be more well perceived as people see you progress.
Yes.
Right? Starting with, like, not saying that the videos were ghetto, but like my first videos 5-6 years ago were pretty ghetto.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're starting off further along than I did because of technology these days with the phone. But seeing the progression to where you get more polished, different types of things going on, I feel like people would like to be part of that journey.
Yeah.
Versus you being like, okay guys, so I'm going all in and I'm spending $5,000 on a month on a team to produce this for me.
Yeah.
It's like walking people through that journey, because then you can speak to the struggles, right?
Yes.
And that's all about what your podcast is like, failing for people. You're like the resident expert. Right?
Yeah, and I like the idea of like you can do it too, and it's like, especially if companies don't have the budget or you're just an individual, it's like, okay, well look what I did for less than $200. Look what I did. This is how I spent no money on these steps of it. Like if you don't have the budget but you think you need to be in a digital space, like you can learn from me and what I've done, and I'll tell you what worked for me, what didn't. And I like having learned the hard way in that sense. Sure, there's some things that can make my life easier, and at some point I hope that I can find those, but it's just like you said, it's nice to learn as I go, but sometimes, I just get a little tired and I'm just like, I wish this could be a little bit easier.
Yeah. What are 3 goals that you have this year? Personal or professional?
Well, okay, so one that's a silly one is I hate the overlay that I use on my podcast. So I try to incorporate the colors from my podcast cover to the overlay I use for episodes. And if you go through all my YouTube ones, because I started episode 1, I did YouTube and audio, right? Well, the first 4 episodes have different overlays because I was experimenting, and so there's not much consistency there. And then finally I picked one and I'm sticking with it. But I still don't like it. So I think one goal is to eventually make that better. And I don't know if I need to do that now so there's consistency in the future.
So you mean the thumbnail of the episode?
No,
or
but
when you're talking?
When I'm talking in the episode.
Okay, so the lower thirds?
Yeah.
Like the text on the screen type of stuff?
Yeah, that stuff. So, and I guess I don't technically have to have it, but when I was doing solo episodes, I was like, it should probably have something so people don't think I'm just talking for, 40 minutes with absolutely no context. So I thought that was good for branding, but figuring things out like that.
Yeah.
And then my website, also pretty bad. I need to work on that. It's the little nitty gritty things like that I just don't enjoy a whole lot. But I'm working on, so set aside time for that. And then, I don't know, get some cool higher paying customers would be awesome. I like the ones I worked with, but I would definitely like to keep expanding and growing and have a consistent stream of business with my side business. Because so far I haven't really marketed it yet. I've just been getting, requests organically. So I'd like to continue that and hopefully build a stream there, which I guess these were all very focused on my business, but I have a million other goals, but that we could go on forever.
Yeah.
So
that's good that you at least have them top of mind, right?
Yeah.
That's why I asked that question, just to understand the mindset you're in and what you need immediately. Okay, so we can help you create a new overlay.
you're gonna make your team do it.
Yes.
That would be cool. I feel like I'm on a Oprah show right now. We'll give you an overlay.
Yeah.
We'll give you this.
Yeah.
My overlay's bad.
Yeah. I'm sure it's not as bad. Do you find yourself fighting for perfection? Because I've talked about that a lot, and we've had some comments on YouTube where people are like, "Oh, yeah, that's good. Don't be shooting for perfection in the beginning, but you need to get there." Do you ever find yourself struggling, or are you just not?
I'm not a perfectionist, but I am able to recognize when something's bad and needs improvement and a reasonable amount of improvement, and that's the overlay I know. When it comes to making videos for my customers, I do feel a lot more pressure for it to be perfect. And so I'll send them first drafts, and I won't spend too much time on the first draft just to like get a feel for what I actually should be improving and what speaks to them, rather than just like me obsessing over transitions and whatnot. So I'll say what looks good, what doesn't, and then I'll take that feedback and think, okay, this is what I need to like perfect or improve on, rather than thinking everything has to be perfect before the first draft. So first drafts are what I emphasize quite a bit, and then I work on, I guess, perfecting. But in my personal stuff, not so much.
Yeah.
I know I'll get better with time, but I don't obsess over perfection.
Yeah, I feel like that could be a hindrance with people. And when it comes to the first draft, like we do this internally where we don't know. A lot of times we'll ask the clients, what are you looking for? What do you like, don't like? And they'll be like, well, I don't know. I'll know when I see it. And
Yeah.
so if you spend too much time on that Rev 1, then you show it to them, they're like, oh my God, I love it, or oh my God, I hate it, change all this stuff. You're just wasting time, right? So it's like getting to the point where you're able to show somebody something to get constructive feedback so they can tell you what they like and don't like, and then working Rev 2 or Rev 3 if you have to go there to be closer to it and get that approval. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in our industry on LinkedIn, they're like, oh my God, I gotta make a video.
Yeah.
And then they do like 17 takes and they're like, I still don't love it. Part of it's nerves, part of it's like they want it to be perfect. Even Nancy this morning made like, she was making a raw, I think she did it like 6 times.
Yeah.
And that's just because she's only made maybe 5 or 6 videos, but eventually she's just gonna be like, well, that's good enough, just throw it up there.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, unless I'm making it for like some epic project that's like really going to be showcased, if it's just another podcast or just another episode or just another of your daily content, it's like, it's going to get lost in the feed. It's going to be there and it's just going to be another thing. You just need to show up more consistently, and it's okay if they're not all perfect, because what people recognize is that you're there. And so that's why I prioritize consistency over perfection, because if I try to perfect it, then I'm never going to release anything and I'm going to become irrelevant really quickly.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, just do the best you can. But if it is for a customer and someone's paying you for it, then that's when you need to like really hone in on the details. But if it's for just me, my personal brand is like, you know, best I can, and I like that we can see the improvement as I go, because some things end up coming more naturally, like figuring out lighting or things like that. And once I fix that, then it just it makes it a lot better. But that's the nice thing about editing, like it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. You can go fix it later.
It's good that you're able to recognize that, but then it's just you, right? So it's like you can make the adjustment. You're not like in front of a room of 50 people, like you're not getting embarrassed at all, which you shouldn't anyways.
Yeah,
like,
and that's the thing, it's so hard to embarrass me, and like I know that I like mess up and it's fine, like I just own it. But I think it's funny too, like I was doing an interview style video for the customer the other day, and a few times I'm like, oh crap, I forgot what I was saying, let's restart. And he thought it was funny, and I was like, yeah, I messed up too.
Yeah.
Like, and so whenever he would mess up, he'd be like, oh wait, can we like reel that back, like can you edit them? Yeah, like, and then we'll say, okay, see, let's keep going. And then so it's like not that much pressure. And I feel like if you are nervous in front of the camera, the best thing you can do is be in an interview style, because then you can get lost in the conversation, you forget cameras are there. Because if I was focused on like this camera, this camera, this camera, then I would be like, oh, that's not my angle, let me adjust, like let me look perfect. But it's more about the authenticity and just chilling out. And people will relate to you a little bit more than being stiff and reading from a script.
Yeah, scripts. I feel like the first time that I shot a video and it was just me and I'm staring at that lens, like eventually I got used to it to where I just get lost in it, to where now when we film I can just stare at the lens, I don't need to stare at somebody. It's definitely weird when you're doing it alone, because that's how I started, kind of like you. Like it was just me filming it, I didn't have a team, and I would edit it remotely. I had somebody that was editing it, but it was just me filming it originally 6 years ago. And yeah, I was like, wait, does this look good? And I have to record a little bit, go back and play it and watch it and look at it, to where if it is more of a conversation basis, like we're documenting it with these cameras. Pay no attention to them. Like we're just filming, and in the end it's going to be a great, it's going to come off way more natural.
Absolutely, I'm sure.
What's one mistake you feel like people are making in our industry with creating content?
Not doing it.
Okay.
That's
What is
that's your mistake. If you're not doing it, start doing it.
Yeah. What is
And use these guys, they're really good. But if you want it to be relatable, aka lower quality, hit me up.
What's something that, like, so we were talking earlier about people that produce content with, on the surface it looks good, but there's no depth to it. And how, like, you would agree that you would rather have less vanity numbers of engagement, but quality over quantity, right?
Yeah, just because I know, like, we were joking around, like, in this industry, it's really easy to, like, put a pretty girl in front of the camera and you're like, oh, well, these engineers will, like, they'll be so excited they'll want to watch it. But if you're going to do that and try to do the whole, like, angle of using someone attractive, then make sure they know what they're talking about, because I feel like you can hook them with that, you can get them to click on it, but how do you make them stay? You have to have, like, meaningful things and, like, actual interesting technical concepts that you get into that are relatable to them. But also, if they're just a paid actress or just somebody you're like, oh, you're the pretty person on the team, come sit in front of the camera, if they don't understand it, I feel like it's a lot less engaging, it's a lot less natural, and the people who do know that content, they're gonna be able to notice and they won't respect it. So I feel like either get someone who is technical and teach them to be good in front of the camera, or train your guys that are good in front of the camera really well to where they can speak technical but understand it. I don't know what's easier. I really don't.
Yeah, I feel like if you have a base level, like, aptitude for technical things, like, just in general, if people use a term, you're like, oh my God, I couldn't even know what that means. But if you can just remotely understand some technical subjects and are good in front of the camera, can hook people in with your words, I feel like you can learn the technical stuff faster at the surface level, right? Because I always tell people technical sales is 80% selling, 20% technical. You don't have to know everything. You have a team for that. But it's hard to find somebody that is technical and outgoing and captivate an audience and can keep somebody engaged. But I think the key, like, is how are you going to hook people, right? And that's what a lot of people in our industry are doing, is they're hooking them with something, an image, a video, but they're not keeping them. And at the end of the day, they're not selling them anything or providing any value. So it's like kind of entertainment. But I feel like those people are getting that dopamine drip of, like, oh my God, I got 1,200 likes in an hour. Like, cool. But if I'm their boss, I'm like, does it actually do anything for us?
Translate to sales dollars.
Or anything, like brand awareness, sponsorship deals, sales dollars, like,
can you teach someone something in that video? Like, what are they getting out of it other than, like, looking at someone pretty? Because, like, go on Instagram, you know, like, you can do that there, and it's like, I don't know, technical content is a weird concept in that regard, because, like, if you are someone who's in sales and, like you said, you don't need to fully understand it, as long as you're not presenting yourself as an expert and saying, you know, I know all these things and I'm the expert here and I'm talking about it, like, be honest, you know, like, hey, I'm a sales guy, like, I've gotten to learn this stuff recently, I'm new to it, I'm excited about it, I think it's cool, I want to tell you about it, rather than presenting yourself as an expert when you're not. So I think it's just, like, be honest with where you're coming from, and then people will respect that more.
Absolutely. Any closing points about people out there in our industry from a content standpoint? What's your one piece of advice?
You can do it yourself, absolutely. But if doing it yourself has become too overwhelming and you can't get out of your head, you can always pay someone to get you started, or you can pay someone and have them do it all the time. But you'll feel more empowered if you just get started. So rather it's taking the leap of faith with yourself or contracting someone out, get the ball rolling and learn as you go, and eventually you'll get the hang of it and you'll be a natural.
All right. Well, guys, that's it with Jordan Yates coming in. You better check her out on LinkedIn, follow her, send her a connection request, and engage with all of her content.
Thanks, guys, and thank you, Kyle.
You're welcome.